Today we fit the cylinder head, camshaft, timing chain and adjust the valves. Well, this is what it looks like after a little bit of a clean up. It's and a washing kero. Still needs a few strips of dirt wiped off. Probably can do that with a rag. Decompression lever just comes out. I think it's retained by a slot in the screw. That slot there, the screw that goes through here, holds it there. The spring just comes off. All these bits I've given a bit of a wire brush to, and then a washing kero. I've switched these valve adjuster covers out with the ones on the other head. These ones look really good. They may not have never been taken off to do a valve adjustment on the other bike. If they have been taken off, they've been done carefully and there's no bird over corners on them. So they're nice. Internals looks pretty much the same. I've knocked a bit of the RTV gasket off all the way around. I'm now going to take the rockers out. I've got some O-ring seals, 20mm seal where the decompression lever goes through. I may or may not put that in this. I think I'll just take it apart to clean it and decide whether I do that at that point, because we know this isn't perfect and maybe the other head is, and if this one plays up it might be better to keep the new parts for the other one, but that's a matter of exploration. Post has arrived from Miko Motorcycles. These will be my chain guides. They're the bits I've been waiting for. It's basically taken, I think, only since Monday to get them here. I've fitted the head stud nuts. The diagonal ones here have the dome tops because they've also got copper washers because they're oil galleries. Oil coming up to the head comes up through around those head studs. The copper washer seals the outside of the nut, and the dome effectively encapsulates the oil channel altogether. So it seems a little odd to have a dome on the inside and a dome on the outside, but that's how it is. Now the camshaft, I've got molybdenum disulfide grease on it. There's a little C-clip I've already installed behind this groove, which is effectively the thrust, handles the left to right thrust. And you put the sprocket in the chain and then mate it up to the end of the camshaft and then put a couple of screws in. There's the T down through the inspection hole and the arrow up on the crankcase to show that the piston's at top dead centre. I can't rotate the crank while I'm holding this stuff, but that's what you're looking for on the flywheel to line up the camshaft sprocket. Okay, I've got the camera sort of in position there. See those two marks on the end of the camshaft at, if you like, 3 and 9, and the pin is up near 12. Those 3 and 9 marks need to be aligned with the casting, and given that they can be out by a whole sprocket tooth, then I've got that right. And that pin at the top, they say that's at 12, but it's not really at 12. It's probably at past 11, if you like. But with those lines horizontal there, that's the timing done properly. So with these two marks, there and there, horizontal in the crankcase there, that happens to be where the cams are not bumpy at all. They're both basically neutral, and they're neutral for quite a distance of rotation there. So that's where you actually adjust the valves, in that position. If you try and adjust the valves, I'll rotate the crankshaft at 360 degrees, which rotates the camshaft just 180 degrees. Sort of looks the same. The only thing you see difference here, this bracket is upside down, but those two horizontal lines are lined up there. And this is a position here where one cam, one's closing and the other one's opening, and that's where you don't want to be adjusting the valves. So that's the difference between, it's the same position on the crank. You can't tell from the crankshaft whether you're in one mode or the other mode. You can only tell from the camshaft. You can usually see through the holes when you're adjusting the valves whether the valves are just about to open and close. And also it's harder to turn here because you've got the extra pressure of those cams trying to operate. So what I haven't done, I put this plug in. I should go and just put a texter mark inside this case here as to where top dead center is, as a quick reference for adjusting the valves in future. That's just a reference marked on there, mark on the recoil cup. And in the recoil cup, I don't know whether those marks will show up in future, but they might save a bit of time. I bought some new oil and a battery. I removed the valve adjuster from the spare head to measure the pitch on the thread of the adjuster screw, and it comes out at 0.75mm pitch. It's an M6 thread. Okay, I've adjusted the valves using my no feel gauge method again. I called this position here about 1:30. It's in between what 1 and 2 o'clock would be. With this spanner loose, the lock nut loose, and then winding this screw down till it just touches the cam. Well, this touches the valve, but the rocker touches the cam. This turned around to about what I'd call 2:30, and working out from the pitch of this screw, which is 0.75mm pitch, if you like, a 5-minute turn of this. When I say 5 minutes, moving it from 1 to 2 o'clock, for example, is advances the, or in this case backs off the tappet by about 0.06 millimeters. The target's 0.05 millimeters. So in fact, to get 0.05 millimeters, turning this rather than 5 minutes, 4 minutes is actually a little bit more accurate, but guessing 4 minutes is a little bit more difficult as well. So I was guessing this was at 2.5, or if you like, 2.5 hours if you're talking at the clock face, and that's somewhere between 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And I've backed back to 1.5. So from 2.5 back to 1.5 should have moved the tappet about 0.06 millimeters, which is in the target range for adjusting the intake. On the exhaust here, if I can get enough light on it, tappet screw there was at probably what I'd call 3:30, 3.5, and I've probably backed it back to somewhere around 1.5 and tightened up the lock nut. This one now has more play on the exhaust. You can feel that more so than on the intake, and the amount I'm rotating those tappet screws is accurate in terms of it is moving it either the target value for this one's 0.10 millimeters, moving it 10 minutes. 0.125 is a 10-minute adjustment on this screw, so about 8 minutes gets you to the target in backing it off, and if you like 4 minutes on that top one. But either way, getting feeler gauges in behind there and having the right feeler gauges makes adjusting tappets or valve lash quite difficult. I think my method works fine. It certainly worked fine on 2 other bikes, and it will be well and truly in the ballpark of what it's supposed to be. Just at the end of the adjustment, just grabbing hold of the valve and giving it a wiggle and feeling that it's got some play is a good start, because they tend to tighten up. A lot of people haven't ever adjusted their valves, and they have, when they first look at them, they often undo the nut and lose the current adjustment before they actually check them, or just get a feel for where they are. Maybe it's the reason their bike's not running properly, and once they have adjusted the valve, it's all good. I'm doing that. It's easy to do it while it's out of the bike. I'm going to put the caps on. I'm happy that I can do a test start on this bike now after adjusting those satisfactorily.
We're very close to getting the bastard started. Get out to your shed and have some fun.